How you doing and welcome to my channel. As you can see today I'm taking a look at the Sideshow Collectibles Bib Fortuna from their Scum and Villainy collection. Just a quick look at the box there, you can see we have an image of Bib Fortuna on the front of the box, the figure itself. On the side, not much going on, and then in typical Sideshow collection Scum and Villainy fashion, we have an image of the figure on the left hand side and a small monologue about the character himself on the right hand side, and then at the bottom we have the rest of the Scum and Villainy collection from Jabba's Palace or Jabba's Barge. So this is essentially the first release in Wave 2 of the Scum and Villainy line. So moving on quickly, but before I do that, I would ask you to consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already. So next up, we have a quick pan of the figure before we get into the details, and just some facts about Bib Fortuna. He's a Twi'lek from the planet Ryloth, and he was actually cast from his own planet for smuggling drugs and began working for Jabba the Hutt as a smuggler, and then eventually worked his way up to the ranks and became Domo of the palace, or Jabba's assistant. Now, Bib Fortuna had actually a plan to assassinate Jabba on the barge at the Sarlacc pit, and he had a skiff ready to escape after using the thermal detonator that he had taken from Princess Leia when she was captured with Chewie and enslaved. However, things didn't work out that way for him, and Fortuna did escape the barge. As anybody who's seen the Book of Boba Fett knows, that he does make an appearance, so he did survive. And he did take over Jabba's palace and his business for many years until Boba Fett came along and overthrew him. So there is more lore. This is generally from Star Wars Legends. There's a bit of canon mixed in there as well. But, you know, there's a lot of it that is from Star Wars Legends, specifically Tales from Jabba's Palace. There's a lot more to it in that novel. You know, there was a part in it where he had his brain removed by the monks who built the monastery, or the palace was originally a monastery, and his brain was removed and put into this spider thing. And then eventually he convinced the monks to put his brain back into another Twi'lek that they'd come across somehow. I can't quite remember. And they did do that for him. They agreed to do that. They took his brain out and put it back into another Twi'lek. And I think that explains why Bib Fortuna looks so different in the Book of Boba Fett. Now, apart from the fact that he was, you know, living a life of luxury and he'd put on a lot of weight, maybe that's the canon. But in Star Wars Legends, he had been put into the body of a different Twi'lek, and that's why he looked so different. And the Twi'lek that he had been put into the body of was overweight. So, like I said, take some of that as canon and some of it as legends. So, moving on. And here we have the accessories that come with Bib Fortuna. And yes, that is it. Just 4 hands. No blaster, no accessories, just the 4 hands. 2 relaxed palms and 2 gesturing hands. Although they do look identical to each other, if I can just get this picked up, they are slightly different to each other, these two. Only marginally. You can see the thumb there is slightly gestured differently, and the pinky is raised up more on the one on the right. It is very subtle, but there is a difference. Probably so subtle that they needn't have bothered, to be honest. And then we have the 2 relaxed palms. No real complaints about the paint. It's got the texture in it to make it look like, you know, a glove. Nice blue color, and they do kind of fade up to a bit darker towards the ends of them, and you can see his fingers protruding through, and his yellowish kind of nails, long nails on him. And like I said, a nice bit of mold on the gloves to make them look like fabric. But that's pretty much it for the accessories. Probably the quickest accessory section I've ever done. But there we go. So moving on to the figure itself. And here we have Bib Fortuna standing pretty much straight up as he comes out of the box. And if I just move him out of the way there, we'll have a look at his base. Sideshow base. Hexagonal shape. Star Wars written on the bottom. And nothing else on the top. Now, Sideshow are charging quite a hefty price for these figures, almost Hot Toys prices, but yet they still give us these bland, horrible bases. If they're going to be charging Hot Toys prices or almost Hot Toys prices, they need to up their game with the base and at least put a nameplate on them or something these days. This is just getting boring and dull. It was okay when their prices were a lot cheaper than Hot Toys, but now that they've upped their prices, they need to up their bases as well, and you know, make us feel like we're getting something for our money. But starting off with Bib Fortuna's outer cloak, I suppose, and we'll get that out of the way, and then I'll get it off him and we'll have a look at his inside layers. So it's like a dark olive green. I'm not sure if that's picking up on camera, the actual colour of it. I think it is, but it is a dark olive, and it's made of this, it's like a faux suede. It's like a faux suede, yeah. And it is multi-layered. If I just turn around to the back there, you can see that there are lots of different layers to them, as there should be. It is on point that there's all these layers, and you can see it also has a nice little bit of weathering around the edges of it, which I'm delighted about. I like this little bit of subtle weathering running through them. It's not overdone, it's not underdone, it's just right, if you ask me. It's just right. And the length of it is pretty spot on as well. It just runs right down to the bottom of his feet and has more of that weathering at the bottom of it, which, to be honest, I think there should be more weathering on the bottom compared to up. Seems like there's more weathering around this section here than the bottom, which doesn't make sense. There should be more weathered at the bottom where it would be dragging along the ground. But you can see there it has the collar on it as well, and as I said, all these multi-layers running through it, and it's not actually lined. I kind of shouldn't have expected there to be a lining in it, but it is just the back of the faux suede. It's not lined at all, and probably rightly so, as it would probably be a bit too bulky and a bit too thick if it had been lined. So it works, it does the job. It's just the inside of that material, and it's completely acceptable. So let's get this robe off him so we can have a look at the inside layers and, you know, be able to see them properly with the robe off. So here we have Bib Fortuna without his robe on, just to get a better look at him. It's not that anybody be posing him without it on, I don't suppose, but I think the colour on camera, according to my screen on the camera here, it looks a bit richer and a bit of a deeper blue than it actually is in hand. I've tried my best to get it as accurately on the screen as I can, but it seems to look darker on the camera, but in hand it is way more accurate to what it appears on camera at the moment. It is accurate to the colour of it in the movie. Just talking about the body as well, I think this is a newly developed body. I don't think Sideshow have ever used this body before. I'm just going through the body here. As we know, Sideshow are kind of hit and miss with the bodies, and this to me is a miss. As you can see there, if you hold him below the knee joint just caves. It just flops straight down. There's no stiffness to that joint at all. Even in the arms, they're extremely flimsy. I don't think he'd be able to hold a blaster. Maybe just about hold a plastic blaster, but if there was any length in the blaster, I don't think he'd be able to hold it. The joint is just so weak that it would just flop down. It's not a very strong joint at all. The elbows are okay, they're not too bad, but just the hip flexors and the knees and the ankles are so weak. They're just so bad. It's not a great body at all. Bit of a miss there on Sideshow's behalf. Not one of their best bodies at all. So moving down to the bottom half of them, and we'll start off at the bottom and we'll work our way up. And here we are for his footwear. And if I can get it to focus, you can see that the top half of the boot there just flops about the place. It has, because of how thin the legs are, it has nothing to cling on to at the top. And it just flops about, unfortunately. The top half is identical to any other Scum and Villainy figure from the last 5 figures, but the bottom half has been redesigned to be more accurate to Bib Fortuna's boots. It does have the point on them. There's a nice bit of speckling and a bit of dry brushing running through them, but apart from that, they are extremely bland, and there isn't a whole heap of detail in them. Is that the way that boot goes, or is that the way it goes? I I can't tell. I can't remember which way that goes. No, that's the back of it, isn't it? Anyway, I'll sort that out later on. So, yeah, not the most accurate. No, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's. You know what? I'll sort it out later on. Not the best mold in the world. Not great, but it is what it is. And if I can just get his trouser leg down, and we will have a look at. You can see at the bottom of them there. There is a little bit of weathering running through them, which I'm delighted to see. Because when these were first announced, one of the main complaints about them was the lack of weathering on them. So there is a little, I hope it's picking up on camera, but there is a bit of weathering on them, and the stitching up the leg is quite okay as well. And even on this part of the robe as well, you can see some weathering running through the edges of it, and all looks on point. And the same on this side here as well. I'm moving around to the back. He also has some weathering at the bottom of his robe as well, which all look on point, and I'm really glad to see some weathering on the figure all around. This seems to be all one piece, is it? No, there actually isn't. There's a separation there. So there's an under long sleeve t-shirt, I suppose, and then this robe put over that, and then there's the trousers on him. So there is a few layers to him. He's quite layered up. Just looking at this armor that he has on at the front there, it looks really well. It looks good. It looks tarnished. That's the word. It looks tarnished because it's so old. It is strapped on. It is held on by this pleather strap just going around the back of his neck, which is unfortunate that it's pleather. Let's hope it stays intact over time. And this strap as well, which is also pleather, all holding it all on and holding it together. And it, like I said, it looks really well. It looks on point. It looks how weathered and tarnished it looks. Like he's had it on him for a long time, and it's all in theme all the way down. And this piece here is separate to this piece here, which is separate to the top piece, which is all held in place by, unfortunately, a piece of pleather. That's a piece of pleather strap holding them pieces on, which I'm sure they could have used something better than that. Come on, Sideshow, than a piece of pleather holding these on. That's eventually going to deteriorate. Yeah, so moving on, he has his completely screen accurate gauntlets on him there, if I can get them to focus. Completely screen accurate gauntlet, which again look the part. They look all tarnished and old, and they have this kind of brass inserts inside them. Inside those circles we have this brass effect, which again looks on point and looks just like they did in the movie. The colour and the paint work on them is done really well. And as I said, the outfit is weathered all in the right areas. I would have liked to have seen a bit of weathering in this area here at the end of the sleeves, but it's not too bad. And then we have this kind of thick belt. I know there's a name for it around the waist, which kind of holds everything in place and, you know, does the job. It's buckled up at clips at the back. So he's accurate enough. He looks decent enough, but let's get him a bit more stable and we'll get a close-up on this head sculpt and the details. And here we are for Bib Fortuna's head sculpt. And I must say, I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite pleased with it. I think they've done a really good job on it, as they always do with their aliens. As I've said before, it's the humans they have an issue with. I like the expression on his face as well. I like the open mouth. I think the teeth look really well. They've got a nice sharpness to them, as they should. You can kind of see, I hope you can see on camera there, that he does have his lower teeth exposed there a little bit as well. And the tongue inside, the colour of the tongue inside is pretty nicely coloured. It's not too red, it's not too pink, it's pretty spot on. and painted quite well in there. And his lip color is pretty spot on. It's not too bright. It's perfectly on point if you ask me. And I like the color of the teeth as well, the yellowness to them. His eyes are on point as well for how they looked in the movie. The color of them, is spot on for the movie, and just the features as well. The lumps all around his head are all on point. You can see he has his little earring in there as well, which is a great attention to detail from Sideshow. And his ears don't have a whole heap of definition to them or detail to them. I'd have to look back on the movie to see if that is correct, but they don't have a heap of depth to them or anything. But you can see all the colour tones to him as well, how pale he is in certain sections, and he really looks the part. He really looks just like he did in the movie. And as for these, what are they called? Leku. These Leku here, you can see the slight damage on that part of it there, which is on point. And all the little kind of ridges all running through them as well, which looks great. You can see there where the Leku is a separate piece that is glued on, and that is one hideous seam line. I'm not impressed with that seam line at all. There wasn't that much of a seam line. Don't think there was any seam line on there in the movie. So not overly impressed. I think they could have hidden that a little bit better. I'm sure they could have. But as for the shape of the head there, you can see it's all spot on for Bib Fortuna, just like it did in the movie. Some subtle kind of grey and blue vein work there, different tones running through it, more of a pinky tone at the top. And the lumps on his head there, you can see they're darker in the centre. And there's more of this kind of pale flesh tone or skin tone on the outsides of it there. And even on the inside of the Leku, it's way pinker than the rest of his face. And his jowls that run below his neck are well detailed. There's some texture to them and a bit of separation. And these pieces here, these little tentacles that hang down, are little rubber pieces that are added onto the mold as well, which look the part. It all looks extremely accurate, extremely good. I'm not sure why, but on the inside of this ear here, there is a little black dot, as you can see there, which isn't present on this ear here. And I'm not sure if they left it out or what the deal is there, but it's certainly only on one ear, which I'm not sure about. I do like the attention to detail of that earring. Overall, I am happy with what Sideshow have done here with the sculpt. Not a whole lot of articulation in his head because of the Leku, so you don't get a whole heap of movement out of him. A little bit left and right and a little bit up and down, which is unavoidable given the design of the creature. It really is unavoidable, so I'm not going to give Sideshow too much flack for that. There's unavoidable. There's not much they could have done there. But there we have it for Bib Fortuna's head sculpt. Like I said, quite pleased with the sculpt. Looks very, very accurate as far as I'm concerned, and the colour tones and the texture and the paint work and the details are all on point. They all look really, really good. And like I said, I'm quite pleased. So, as you can see there, he does stand, should I say, on his own without the base. But because of the weak ankle joints and the knee joints, I wouldn't be too inclined to keep him that way. But just giving him a quick pan before we bring this review to a close, just giving him a quick pan, another look of him without the robe on, and just see the details and how thin that body is. And like I said, I think this is the first time they've used this body, but somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. The mold in the hands is done quite well, and even the outfit overall, with a little bit of weathering running through it. This is all, one color. I think it looks darker as I go down because my lighting is coming from the top. Kind of looks like it changes color, but it is all the one color, and it all looks the part and on point. And as I said, the head sculpt to me is pretty spot on. It really looks well. I'm quite happy with it. And then another kind of quick pan of him with the robe on, which is, like I said, most people are going to pose him with the robe on. There's no need for him to be posed without the robe on. I'll just bring that light up again so we can see the robe a bit better. As you can see, all the weathering running through it there, and it looks really good. It looks worn, it looks used. And this is, like I said, certainly how people are going to pose him with the robe on. There's no reason to pose him any other way. He was never seen on screen, without the robe on. So I just want to have a quick another look at the robe before we end things, and you can see the multi layers on him as well. So as I said, overall I'm pleased with him. I just don't think the price tag matches what you get for your money. That is my overall complaint, and the body is not great either. So yeah, I just think they are slightly overpriced for what they are. But if you did like the video, please don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button, and keep your eye out for future content. I will be adding this figure to my Sideshow collection Scum and Villainy playlist that I have on my page, and I'll also be adding it to my Sideshow collectibles playlist. So why don't you check those out and see, all the figures that are from the Scum and Villainy line, and all the Sideshow collectibles figures that I have. So if you did enjoy the video, like I said, please hit the like and subscribe, and thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next one.